Hey, everybody, what's going on? It is Lauren DeLisa Coleman with the Inside Series for Filmio, and we are now, get out a tissue, we are at our last interview for the Harlem International Film Festival. But let's just say that we've saved the best for last. We have three fabulous women now to talk about their film. It is called Out of Tune, and I just want to make sure I have my notes here. I want to make sure I get everybody credited beautifully. So I have first, at least to my left, Erica Hamilton, who is the writer and the lead. And then next, Diana Zollicoffer, who is a co-producer, and Portland, not last but not least, Tagavi, who is the director of Out of Tune. And I just want to thank each of you so much for taking the time to be able to do this interview. You guys, welcome. Who wants to be like the victim to give me the synopsis for Out of Tune?
I vote Erica.
Okay, go for it. So this film is about a proud Black woman who is stigmatized in childhood by the love of the rock band Journey, her love for the rock band Journey. And she tries to find her voice in a place, in a world where she doesn't always feel Black enough. It's basically a journey of her going from I have something to hide to I have nothing to prove. And it's a heartfelt, comedic, lighthearted, fun film.
I think that's a beautiful synopsis. And, you know, when I began to look a bit at this, I was just like, wow, you know, we don't typically see, or at least I haven't seen a lot of films about that aren't a documentary about being, you know, Black enough. Like what is that? We may have these conversations, whether it's, you know, on Black Twitter or between ourselves or whatever, but I don't really think that we've seen this explored that much in film. You know, I mean, I don't even know if that even exists. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's no such thing as like this person is not white enough. Yeah. We may have it a little bit in like maybe the Latino community that this person is not Latino enough, but not really. It is really quintessentially a Black thing. So I would love to know how you guys kind of came to this story and how you ended up picking the band Journey and just like get like completely into it. Who wants to take that?
I can actually start off because it sort of started with me. I had this moment where I was driving along on the PCH and I was just cruising and lights came on. I'm a big fan of Top 40 radio. Me and Diana share this. We grew up listening to Casey Kasem, and I don't know, somewhere in it, I just fell in love with like the sort of the classic rock, hair metal bands of, you know, the 80s. And I was cruising along and lights came on and I hit a stoplight and a car of Black guys pulled up next to me and I had my windows down and I was, you know, sort of blasting it. And I looked over at them and they looked over at me, and you don't know what they're thinking, but I instinctively just turned down my radio and I felt insecure about it. And they drove off and probably didn't think of me again. But I had this whole moment where I was like, why would I am a grown ass woman. Like, why would I do that? And so it just kind of caused me to think a little more. And I realized that I grew up in the Black church. I grew up middle class around a lot of, you know, white spaces, but I always cared the most what my people thought of me. You know, I don't know if any of you, like, if you've been to like a wedding where you're the only Black person, I didn't care about the people surrounding me, but I would care about that one waiter that comes out like, oh, do they think I'm down? Like, why do they think I'm around all these, you know, that sort of thing. And it's kind of ridiculous to care so much and to lose yourself in the process. So it's sort of my coming out at the same time of having my authentic voice and being, you know, we're not a monolith. Like we could be a lot of different things. Plus, I just wanted to write something where I saw, you know, sort of a, not corny, but like a awkward Black woman just singing out loud and having fun. Right. We are not so full of trauma that we can't share stories like that.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really great way to put that. It's funny that you mentioned that because there is a large and prestigious mall across from where I am, and there are different, I don't know, ads or whatever. And I was just thinking, literally, like a few months ago, there's some like guy who's he's a black guy, and he's just like really animated in this poster. And I just thought, wow, we never really see like people of color, like we're not either supposed to or don't get that crazy. Like you see like just the crazy comedian or somebody who's just really just elated or really full on crazy. It's just something that is not really typically portrayed, although we know it can happen. We see the hard hood, we see the bearing the weight of the shoulders, but really that what would we call this, unbridled joy, is just something that you don't typically see, or maybe only after a long tragedy, right, that arc. So just to be able to put that out there, I think is really, really great. I'm hoping though that now, because we see so many different types of expression of at least I'm thinking it through music, or like even gay rappers, et cetera, et cetera. Those who would be most apt to say you aren't black enough now, even they are more welcoming or understanding that there's a lot of different levels, but I don't think it's universal. Right. So it's great that this story is being told now. How did the three of you come together to tell this?
Well, so actually, or you go.
Well, I was going to say Portland and Erica are like the brain trust of this, and they're connecting. It was, amazing. So I'll let Portland take it from there.
Oh, yeah. No, Erica approached me like over a year ago, 2 years ago.
Maybe.
Through our DP, who like I knew from AFI and knew Erica. And she was like, hey, I have a friend who has this great script. I think you'd be great for it. She's looking for a director. And I remember when I read it, I just really related to it. Because like I'm mixed, but like my struggle is that no one knows that I'm half Creole, and like no one can tell. And I've spent a lot of my life kind of like feeling like I'm down. Like, I can, like my cousins would. I remember being like at a 4th of July party at an aunt's house, and I was really little, and like all the kids are black, and then there's me, and someone was like, "What's this white girl doing here?" And I was like, "Where's the white girl?" And it was me. So like I just remember like feeling that pressure to perform blackness, to overcompensate for how I looked growing up. And then I just kind of stopped because I was really, really bad at it. And I just was like, I crave these types of stories. Like I used to complain all the time. I was like the Black community really only gets like 2 types of representation. It's Medea films and
Gangster.
civil rights, like period trauma movies. And I was
Gangster.
like, which one?
And gangsterhood.
Yeah, exactly. I think at the time when I said this, it was like, oh yeah, freedom writers. Like it's like the very ad-libs narrative. And when I read this, I was like, this is exactly what like I want to be a part of. Like I want showcase like awkward, weird Black women. Like there's so many more stories within like just everyday Black experiences that don't have to be sad. And like the idea of like that pressure that Erica was describing, it's so funny how there isn't any like depiction, like not very much depiction of it on screen, because it's very present. And we don't touch upon it in our film, but like even going into like colorism and like just the way that you're supposed to behave or not behave, like what you're supposed to claim versus what you're not supposed to claim. I think it's so fascinating. And I think it is really interesting how like what you mentioned about like rappers, like things are becoming way more nuanced and accepted now. And I think that what we make should reflect that in film, at least, as well.
You're right. Music does tend to lead. I guess because it's less confrontational. It's usually only 3 minutes and 33 seconds of confrontation. If it is something that's visual, is much more impactful.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for adding that, Diana. I'd love to know what kind of some of the elements were for you as a co-producer within all of this. I mean, what was kind of, I don't know, either most rewarding or most challenging as you kind of helped to bring this all together?
I feel like what's been the most rewarding thing is that even on this interview, you have all the shades of us. You have all the shades of us. And, the fact that we get to talk about music colorism, because you're only supposed to like a certain type of music, or being the odd person out, because I'm also part Creole as well. And we have a statement that's called ants in the milk. And growing up, I was always the ant in the milk, but at the same time, I was a little red ant in the milk.
Oh my goodness.
So it's that. And, when I met Erica, it was like classic Hollywood meet cute. We met at a party in the hills. She's telling me this story, and immediately I was like, oh my God, that's me. Because I grew up, with my very Southern dad, like one day walking into my bedroom, it's like, who are all these white boys on your wall? It was back in the days of Teen Beat and all those magazines. And, I'm dating myself, and having all the rock bands that I liked, and being a huge Journey fan, a huge Billy Idol fan, and so not quite fitting in growing up in DC where go-go music was the big thing, So that immediately touched upon a lot of things. And then also as a filmmaker, and all of us feeling that need to have diverse story. It's like this story has a social justice element to it and fairness and bringing out an issue, but it's also a fish out of water story. It's also a triumphant story of this woman, reclaiming herself and the things that she loved. And basically, it's a healing story because she gets to heal the little girl that was hurt, so many years ago by being ostracized. And it's so wonderful to have this one piece within this short space of time, proving us as filmmakers that we hit and tick all of these boxes, and have all of these stories and everything at the same time come through and show that we are capable of telling very dynamic stories, and it's not just the one thing. And it's not like you said, the put upon, you have to be strong Black woman, because she gets to show her fear and her weakness and then her triumph over that. And with comedy, that's the other thing too, is like the comedic elements of this. And it's just been satisfying. And, and working with such dynamic women, like I call our creative collective sisterhood, because I'm very fortunate. There are wonderful women that I get to work with and tell these stories with.
That's so amazing. I mean, I'm going to ask one question and then I'll ask the other question tongue in cheek. What do you hope people take away from this film? And do you have to be a woman of color to appreciate this film?
No. It's a universal story. It's definitely a universal story. And the takeaway is that we all love music. I mean, honestly, you can go to any karaoke place all over the world, and it's ironically enough the one place where it's like the UN, the melting pot. You have Asian people like doing Snoop, or NWA, and you have, Black people doing country, or, like the older Black guy doing Sinatra. It really is. So it's like that love of music and, coming together. And the fact that we get to do it through Journey, is fantastic, because in and of the word journey tells you that it's on a path.
Was it crazy to clear the rights, by the way, for the usage of the music?
Was it crazy?
Master and commander.
It was crazy, but it
props to her.
Steve Perry, the former lead singer of Journey, he really helped us. I had to send a pitch video to him. He is notorious for saying no to projects, and I got a connection that led to him, and I sent him a video pitch, and he loved it, and saw my passion in it, and it's kind of been really great about, getting the others on board. And so, I had to go through Sony. I had to jump through a lot of hoops, and it took way longer than I ever imagined.
There's usually an interesting story around music when it's,
Right.
At that level. So I had to ask, but I'm so glad to hear that. I remember there was this filmmaker who had this film. I can't think of the name of it right now, but Pacino is the lead. This is about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Anyway, there was like John Lennon music in it, and everybody had told him, he did a Q&A after, and everyone told him, of course, he would never get the rights to it. And through a series of all kinds of events, next thing you know, well, not next thing, like a long time later, but it still happened that he's in, Yoko Ono's living room. And she was like, I totally, believe in this, and said yes. Right. So you do have to go for the things. And I love to hear that, he's notorious for saying no, but you believed otherwise, and you felt you had something to offer. So, there you have it.
It's great.
I think that that's so great. So now, were you guys present physically for the festival, or only virtually?
I was able to make it out there. I was able to fly out.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So tell the viewers what the vibe was like.
It felt like a very warm community vibe. I walked in, everyone was in good spirits and happy, and excited to be there. There are people really dressed up, and just, filmmakers. This was my first journey in being a filmmaker. I've always been an actress, but the work, the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into making a film is huge. And so you could sort of see that, like, everyone just felt, oh, I've arrived. This is the moment. This is what you've been working towards. So it definitely had that spirit in the air.
I love that, because there are only a few days that were physical, and then the rest, through the 15th, will be online. So that's still great, but it's just always nice to hear what the physicality of it was like as well. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Do either of you have anything else that you might want to add about, the film, or just the state of women of color in the universe? No, but just anything that you kind of think is important that you might not have already been able to say.
I think that the film, for me, the thing that I think is really important about it, and I think we touched upon it, is that like at the end, other people knew the words. Like, you're not really alone, Like, I think this idea that there is stigma from, like, not falling in line in your own community exists, but I think that even people who are putting pressure on other people to fall in line, no matter what, like, it's like, if it's like an ethnic background, or like a club, or like any like community that you belong to, everyone has their thing. Like, everyone has something that doesn't quite align. And I thought it was really lovely to like showcase that like we might be afraid, but like we're really not alone. Like, it just takes like going out and like expressing that. Like, I mean, this is a tangent, but like the idea that social media, people were like, oh, like, yeah, I didn't know that other people liked this the same way that I did, who came from the same community that I come from. Like, there's so many of us. And I think that's like one of my favorite aspects of the film is that like even though she stands up for herself, her standing up for herself opens the floodgates for other people to feel comfortable to also like be themselves as well.
I think that that's a really great point to add. I think too that it's just kind of too bad that we don't all understand that a lot of this allegedly comes from, you know, what do they call this, a more primitive brain, right? So that we had to, when it was important for us to exist, that if somebody seemed weird or not like the rest, it could really affect, you know, I don't know, like protecting against enemies or whatever. Like, you know, you live at the top of a mountain and you have somebody who's unusual, that's just not going to work because security is everything, right? And so that's why allegedly, you know, the human brain kind of tends to want to edit out anything that is not similar because it could threaten one's own life and existence. Thank God we are well past that now, but I think sometimes we don't realize that that's where it comes from. And if we understand that it comes more from fear, then you can kind of address it more, right? It's not just that you don't like something because it's different. There's a whole reason there, and that has to be honored too, right? Because it was valid. It's just not valid now, and maybe, you know, just to kind of reimagine that in a different way to be able to kind of embrace everybody, you actually end up being safer, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely goes back to slavery times too, where you needed to be a strong unit as Black people. Black culture needed to bond together, and anyone that, you know, sort of strayed, it can make it really difficult. So yeah, it's definitely a history and a fear of, you know, what you said, the primitive mind. Yeah, that makes sense. But there's also a moment in the very end too that that Portland had in that I thought is brilliant, because I feel Black people as a culture respect people that keep it real. And so, you know, once she became her authentic self, once she becomes her, you know, people won't deny you on that. And it's the wavering. It's that, like, you know, not, I don't know. I just felt in the film, there's a moment.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah, where she's like, I don't care. People respect
They're like,
that.
okay, I guess she's just here.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Well, I'm just so glad that all of you could, you know, just kind of really complete this project and complete it so successfully and share it at the festival. How can we just keep up with whatever is next with the film, or via social media with you guys, or what have you? This is now the time to promo. So
yeah, our socials for Instagram are constantly updated, and it's just out of tune film. I think out of tune short film. Oh, let me make sure.
Okay.
And then we also have a website that's out of tune.
Great. Yes.
That's Squarespace.
We love films that have sites because, like, super organized. That's always a good thing. Always.
Oh, yeah. And you can find me at Portland. I think it's Portland.Tagavi on Instagram. I'm the only Portland Tagavi who exists. So if you just Google me.
Okay, it won't be hard to find. Diana?
And I am D as in David, C as in cat, Z as in zebra.
You need to change it.
LLI, C as in cat, O, double F as in Frank, ER. On Instagram. I've been saying my name, spelling it like that since I was able to spell. So it's ingrained. So everything is there, and you'll see a Black cat on a white unicorn. That's my.
Then we know it's you. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm dot Erica Hamilton it's Instagram. That's my
okay. Name. And did you double check the
Yeah, it's out of tune film.
Okay, great. You guys, thank you so much for all of this. I wish you nothing but more success. And it really was a lot of fun speaking with each of you.
Thank you.
Same. Thank you.
My pleasure. And you guys, I hope that you have enjoyed watching this interview. Stay tuned, because our whole next block will be Cannes, the south of France, and so much more. So I am, as always, Lauren DeLisa Coleman for the Inside series here at Filmio. Thanks for watching.